Welcome everyone to our grammar class. Today we're going to talk about when do you spell words with a C, a CK, or a K that makes the hard K sound. So we're going to start out with the suffix ic, I-C. And it says one, exhibited or affected, or it means to, pertaining to, and it's often added to words of Greek or Latin origin. So that's when you see, this is a suffix, and you'll see those often in Greek and Latin words. Okay, we're gonna focus on this word nickel. And CKs always come after short vowels. Use a CK if you can't use a C in the middle of the word. So what that means is we can't use a C because that is an E, I, or a Y. So if you put a C right here, it's going to say nissel or nisel, depending on, it would probably say nisel because it would keep it open. But this CK only can go after short vowels. And so it's going to click, we're gonna have it, it'll break right here. And then we have our vowel L that turns to schwa. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, bucket, same thing here. This CK right here comes right after a short vowel, and that's why we have it here. But we can't use a C because this is an E. Fex. But this is a little bit different because this CK looks like it is in the middle of a word. Let's read number 2. CKs and Ks are at the end of words. So see, that's where you find the CKs and the Ks. So this is actually at the end of a word because this is a suffix and this is a short vowel. And so that's why that CK is there. This is a CK at the very end of words. That's a short vowel. Back, pack, same rule. This is at the end of a word. That's a short vowel. Dock. This CK is at the end of a word because that is a short vowel. It follows a short vowel. Sick. This I is a short vowel, so we're going to finish it with a CK. Nick. This is a short vowel, so we finish it with a CK. Tuck. Short vowel, so it ends with a CK. Now, ticket. So it's a little bit harder when you're trying to figure out, well, should I put a C in the middle of the word, or should it be a CK, or should it be a K? Well, if you hear ticket, and it's following the K sound, the is following the CK, you know it is going to not be a C. Well, if this is short, then you know it's a CK, and then you just add the CK, tick. Tackle. Now this is fun because this is a short vowel. It's a consonant LE syllable right here, the LE. And this actually will help you. Should I spell it with a KLE or a CLE? Well, if you know that if this is short, most of the time, if you have a K sound in there, it's going to be a CK, and that will keep that short. All right? Some people will break this digraph, but I do not break digraphs. But this will still be a consonant LE syllable. Packet, same here. We have, this is an E, I, or a Y, so it cannot be a C. This is a short vowel, so it is a CK. Racket, this is an E, I, or a Y, so it cannot be a CK. It cannot be a C, so we're putting it a CK because that is a short vowel. Pocket, the same rule right there. Decker, but this one's a little bit different because deck is your base word. So it's going to end with a CK because that's a short vowel. And then you have your suffix added onto that. Same with this one. This rock is your base word. And so it's going to end with the CK because that is a short vowel. But you could also follow that because that is an EI or a Y, so it couldn't be a C there anyways. Repack. So this is a CK because that's a short vowel. Locker. This is a CK because this is the end of your base word and that's a short vowel. Chicken. CK because that is an EI or Y and that's a short vowel. So it can't be a C. But package, what's your base word here, Paul?
Pack.
Pack. So you are doing a CK because that's a short vowel. This pack is a base word and this is your suffix. Backlist, this is a multi-syllable word. Why are we doing a CK there, Dan?
Because it's a short vowel.
Because that is a short vowel, but look, that's an L. Why are we not putting a C in there? Because typically we could put a C in there, right?
Because L is not an option.
Because that is a compound word. So when you have a compound word, you need to make sure that you're spelling your words exactly the same way as you would spell them if they were all by themselves. And you would spell back exactly with a B-A-C-K and not with a B-A-C, because C's are not allowed to be at the end of our words. C's are very rare at the end of an English word. Very rare. So you wouldn't spell it B-A-C. You won't see that. So I-C, or if you hear the sound ick, is only at the end of multi-syllable words, and that is the only time you spell k at the end of a word. I know there's some exceptions, but I teach it the only way because the C's at the end of words is rare, unless it says ick, and that has to be in a multi-syllable word. So 2 syllables or more for that to happen. So what we said earlier, ick, IC, is a suffix, or they sit in multi-syllable words as not as a suffix. But most of those, or oftentimes, we have anything that with an ick on it comes from the Latin or Greek origin. Now also in Greek words, they typically save their ick for their suffix. For instance, scenic. Now we know that this is a Greek word because it starts with an SC. And your base word would have been seen, and we dropped the E and added our vowel suffix ick right here. Atomic, genic, see how this is our suffix right here. Now, these words, on the other hand, they do not make sense without the ick onto it right away, like mosaic. So everything I have marked in green, they are Latin or they fit the Greek origin. See how many of them are doing that? So mosaic is Latin, that's the origin that it falls in. Fabric, Latin. Picnic, this one doesn't have an origin. We don't know exactly where this came from. So music is Latin, logic, Latin. See how it says ick? It's in a multi-syllable word and it's IC. Now it won't work with ack or ek or uck, any of the vowels besides the I. It's not going to work with, or awk, it doesn't work with that. If you do awk, it has to be an OCK. If you do ack, it has to be an ACK. If you do uck, it has to be a UCK. If you do ek, it has to be an ECK if it's in a multi-syllable word. But when you have a multi-syllable word and it says ick, it's IC. Logic, panic, it's Latin. Ethnic, this originated from Latin and Greek. Don't you guys think that's interesting? Mm-hmm. So sophomoric, now this right here it comes from the Greek origin, and this is a suffix on this word, and sophomore, okay? And you need to remember what it means what ick means. One exhibited or affected, or it's pertaining to a sophomore. You're being sophomoric. You're pertaining to a sophomore, okay? So tunic, how do you spell ick at the end of a multi-syllable word, boys? I-C. Public, how do you spell ick at the end of a multi-syllable word? How do you spell ick at the end of a multi-syllable word, Paul? I-C. Phallic, attic. See, this is Latin. Attic is Greek and Latin origin. Civic is a Latin origin. So that's really important that you understand how to spell your ick at the end of a multi-syllable word. Now, here is a rare word where we will have a C at the end of a word. Block. This is a coalition of groups with the same purpose. You will not see this very often, you guys. This block, this is how you would typically spell ock, O-C-K at the end, because this is a short vowel. And this is a solid piece, an obstruction. So these are homophones. They're spelled different. They say the same thing. So now let's go into sawbuck. Well, this is a multi-syllable word. How come this is spelled with a CK down? It's because this is a short vowel and it doesn't say I. So anything that is a short vowel that is not the I, you spell it with a UCK or an ACK or a OCK or ECK, whatever. You don't do that. Zweibach. Right here is your base word, ACK. It doesn't matter if it's a multi-syllable word when you have your K sound. If it's not ick, you spell it with a CK. Hardtack. See, this is a multi-syllable word, boys, but we're spelling it with an ACK. And not only that, this is a compound word, and you would spell your compound word how you would typically spell it if it was by itself. Lavrock, this is a short vowel, so you're spelling it with a CK. Seasick. Well, how come this is spelled with an S-I-C-K? It says ick, it's in a multi-syllable word. Paul, why is this being spelled like an I-C-K? Good, Daniel, because this is a compound word. Because in a compound word, we spell our own little individual words like you would if they were sitting by themselves. So now let's look at the ick versus IC versus ICK. When do we spell that? Okay, so if we look at fabric, so in this multi-syllable word, how do we spell Rick? How do we spell Rick in a multi-syllable word? I see. But how do we spell it in, how do we spell it if we broke it apart and we want to go R-I-C-K? So if it's in a one-syllable word like this, you have to spell it with an I-C-K. It only happens if you spell this in a multi-syllable word. How would we spell Nick right here? If we want to pull this off and just spell Nick by its one-syllable word. Here, picnic, we have to spell it with an I-C. But how would we spell Nick if we just spell it Nick? N-I-C-K. N-I-C-K. How about music? How would we spell sick if we just want you are sick? It's a different word.
S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K. How come?
Because I-Cs can't be at the end of words.
It can't be at the
end of one-syllable words.
It can't be at the end of one-syllable words. So this is only allowed at the end of multi-syllable words. If it's not in a multi-syllable word, you have to spell it I-C-K. How about jick? I-C-K, right? That's not a real word. We have already done nick. How about lick? How do you spell lick if it's in a one-syllable word? L-I-C-K, because that is a real word, right? How do we spell tick if it's in a one-syllable word?
T-I-C-K.
T-I-C-K. How about Vic, if it's in a one-syllable word? Because Vic is a real word. Okay? So, but if it's in a multi-syllable word, how are you guys going to spell ick?
I-C.
I-C. Now, how are you going to spell ack in a multi-syllable word? Ack in a multi-syllable word.
That's ick.
How are you going to spell ack in a multi-syllable word?
C-K-C.
A-C-K. Going to spell uck in a multi-syllable word? U-C-K. We're talking about like the end of words. How are you going to spell eck in a multi-syllable word? E-C-K. Good. Now, C's and K's begin words. K's can only follow E, I's, and Y's to begin words. Okay? CKs cannot begin words. They only follow short vowels. All right, so at the beginning of a word, which ones do you use?
C or K's.
C's and K's. How come we can't use a CK at the beginning of
Because it
words?
has to be by a vowel. Well, sure.
It has to follow a short vowel, right? So also use a C when it's not followed by an E, I, or Y. Always use a C first. If it does not work, try a CK, and then you try a K. So that's in the middle of words. It follows really any rule, except at the beginning of words, you can't have a CK because CKs have to follow short vowels. But let's look at these that start with C's. Now, this is a C because that's not an E, I, or a Y. Okay? We talked about K's can only follow E, I's, and Y's. So this crow, this is not an E, I, or a Y, so it's a C. Comedy, this is not an E, I, or a Y, so it's a C. Call, this is not an E, I, or Y, so it's a C. So scent, well, what happened here? It turned into S because this is an E, I, or Y. So if we wanted it to say Kent, you would have to spell it that way. Now this is a real word. It means 100. Okay, so now look at cake. See how the difference? This was an E, I, or a Y, but this has two perfect examples. We have an A here, so it's not an E, I, or Y, so you spell the K sound. This is cake with a C. Now this though, right here, we can't spell it C-A-C-E, or it would say case, and then it's still spelled wrong in this sense. So if we want the K sound, we can't spell it C-A-C-K-E because this is not a short vowel. This is a long vowel. Does that make sense? So it has to be a K. So this can stay long, and you couldn't have two in between here because we want this to stay long. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a C because this says cost. It's because this is not an E, I, or a Y. Comb. This is not an E, I, or Y, so it is a C. Clue. This is not an E, I, or a Y, so it says, so you were spelling it with a C. Catching. This is not an E, I, or Y, so it is spelt with a C. Calf. This is not an E, I, or Y, so it is spelt with a C. So club, this L is not an E, I, or Y, so it is spelt with a C. I wanted to do this homophone, and we have sale. These are really confusables. So the cell, I want to go to the cell at the grocery store. That's this. This cell is I will sell my car. This cell has multiple meanings. It could be the cells in your skin, it could be your cell phone, it could be the cell that you're locking a prisoner in behind bars. It has lots of different meanings, but this C is following a E, I, or Y. So it is not saying the K sound, okay? But cynic, this right here, this IC, can you tell what origin this comes from just by looking at it? That's close.
Greek.
It's Greek. Why do you know that?
The Y.
The Y in the middle of this word. So right off the bat, we know that this is a Greek word because of this Y. But you would think that it wouldn't be spelled with a C right here, ick, like that. But you take off your plural S and you spell it IC and you add your plural S, cynic, cynics. How do you spell ick at the end of a multi-syllable word? IC. C's and K's begin words. K's can only follow E, I, Y to begin words. All right? CKs cannot begin words. They only follow short vowels. Use a C when it is not followed by an E, I, or Y. Always use the C first. If it does not work, try a CK, then a K. So if your C doesn't work, try a CK. But we're gonna go over the Ks right now. So that is the kitten. This is an E, I, or Y, so you're spelling it with a K. Does that make sense? Is that gonna help your spelling intensely? Yeah, it will. Keeper, that is an E, I, or Y, so you spell it with a K. Colonel, this is an E, I, or Y, you spell it with a K. Now, there are some exceptions. So especially in names, so I have a really good friend, her name is Karen, and most people spell it with a C-A-R. But she spells it with a K-A-R because that's what her parents wanted. That's how they wanted to spell it. But it doesn't follow the spelling rule. But most words that we use in our daily life follow the spelling rules. Okay? Like the word kitchen. This is an E, I, or Y, so it is a K. Kingly. It's an E, I, or Y, so it's a K. Kiss. An E, I, or Y, so it's a K. Kind. An E, I, or Y, so it's a K. Kent, see? This is an E, so it's a K. But this one, look at this. Nap. What's this, you guys? How come this is a K, but it's not an E, I, or Y?
Because it's an old word. Yeah,
this is a really old word. This is a Greek word. And they used to say canap a long, long time ago, and then they dropped it. It makes sense why they dropped it, because if you have this rule right here and you have a bunch of words that say that, it could mess people up, because this follows a spelling rule. And then this, you just have to know that it's a really old word, it's Greek. So we have kibble, this is an I, so it is a K. Kelp, it's an E, so it's a K. Kindle, it's an I, so it's a K. Okay, so now let's look at this homophone. Curdle and curdle. Now, if you say this really slowly, it's curdle, but people don't say curdle, they say curdle. And so it sounds like a D. So this would be something that you would really need to study. This sounds like curdle. But look at this. These are vowel R syllables right here, and we have 3 vowel R syllables that say the same sound. I-Rs, E-Rs, and U-Rs. So that makes spelling really hard when you have the sound. So see how you can have a K-I-R and it's saying cur, or you can have a C-U-R and it's saying cur. So that can be a little bit confusing. So add those into your dictionary words, your vocabulary words, and study them. This curdle is Old English. It's archaic, which we'll talk about over here for a minute. Kiosk, this word, it really doesn't come from our language, but see, even some other language, they follow the rule. This is an I, so it is being spelt with a K. So it means trouble, anxiety, and I think this is actually Scottish. Okay, kwashiorkor, this is a word that we don't speak in our regular English language. And very few words like this. And at the beginning, it says qua. And how we use qua is with a Q. And what else do we put with our Q's? Yeah, a QU. And that's what the sounds that we spell qua with. Whoops, I'm going to touch my thing. That's the sound that we spell. Very unusual for something like this. And this is a sickness. So if you see words like that, super unusual, that start with a KW, because the qua sound typically comes from this, and lots of words in our English language is spelled like this, not like this. Okay, so now, and so it's not really following the spelling rule here either. It's just, this just doesn't follow spelling rules. You just don't see it in our English language. Okay, but these you see all the time in the English language. Mark, it's the end of a word. That is not a short vowel. Book, that's the end of a word. It's not a short vowel. Spook, it's the end of a word. It's not a short vowel. K's do not follow short vowels. All right, do you guys remember that? They do not follow them. Spook, that's not a short vowel. Weak, that is not a short vowel. Yes, sweetheart.
So it's not short because it's a vowel team?
Yeah, because this is a vowel team, it's a K. You cannot put a CK here because that's not a short vowel. That's part of a vowel team. Does that make sense? Work, that is not a short vowel. You cannot put a CK here because that is not a short vowel. That's part of a vowel R syllable. This is a vowel R syllable. Bank, this is a unit syllable. This N is not a short vowel. That's why it's being spelled with a K. Park, that's not a short vowel. Weak, that's not a short vowel. Now remember, K's do not follow short vowels. All right, so now we have the word walk. So what happens to this word, Dan, that you can hear?
The L is silent.
Yeah, the L is silent, and the A is not saying all. We don't say walk. And you have a few words like that, like talk and stock. But you have to be careful. This actually is a true sight word that you need to learn how to spell. But this K right here is a K because this is not a short vowel. Okay, but you have a few words that you should look up and study that are like this. Also, Greek. How do you know that this word is Greek?
Because of
The CH in here. So this says archaic, and we didn't focus on the CH saying the K sound because I wanted you to see when to spell it with a C, CK, or a K in the English language, not the Greek language. But if you notice here, that also has its suffix IC onto arc. Okay, so let's just do a couple of definitions again that were at the beginning of the lesson. C's, CKs, and Ks are at the end of words, and C's are very rare at the end of an English word. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.